Welcome to another episode of the Carlson Cards podcast. My name is Austin. I will be your host. And today we get to interview an amazing collector that has a very unique story when it ties to how they follow their favorite players. In this episode, we get to learn about Kristina's collection, and one of the things that was really interesting was learning about the decision she and her husband made to move across the country to follow their team and watch every home game down in Dallas. We talk about a ton of awesome cards and cover some modern NBA, which is not something that we've talked about on this podcast before. And I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's jump over to the episode. Welcome to episode 23 of the Carlson Cards podcast. We're joined today by an awesome individual that I'm pumped she was willing to hop on. So it's Kristina, who goes by @Kristina'sPC on Instagram. We have a lot to talk about today, and I'm really excited to talk about some modern basketball because we haven't really done that on here. It's been a lot of football, older stuff like that. And we've seen your your spouse, I guess you'd say, right? We've had Chris on here, and now we get to see the other side of the PC that's in the Chris and Kristina household. So this will be awesome. So how are you doing, Kristina?
Well, first off, thank you so much, Austin, for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I love what your podcast does, talking to collectors, and it's like lane of the hobby content that like we totally need. So like, thank you for doing what you do, and I'm honored to be here today. So thanks for having me.
Thanks. That means a lot coming from, again, I've been a fan of the crossover, listening to you, listening to Chris, Josh. So it's been great to finally close the loop and have the trifecta. It's amazing. And it was fun meeting you at the National this year too. That was nice having the Card Ladder booth pop into, say hi, and charge your phone. I didn't need to because I was prepared, but I'm sure not everyone was.
No, yeah, not everyone was, but that's what we're there for. We were
exactly
trying to figure out a way to actually provide a service to people instead of just like trying to like sell them something or pitch them something. And that's kind of what our team came up with was like, what do you need when you're at the National? Well, you need somewhere like to sit and you need somewhere to charge. So
yeah, and that was it seemed like well received, and I appreciate it because that was my first National, and it was like I liked having the booths there, right? It was neat, but the one thing I didn't like was that they were all like intertwined. Like if you didn't know where you were going, it was really hard to not get lost in the company booths. But I felt like at least Card Ladder for sure was in a really nice spot where it was like an escape instead of a like running through it, because you're just trying to go somewhere else. Like I love that, so that was awesome that they put you guys in that spot. I just felt like it worked well.
Yeah, no, we were definitely very happy to be like kind of like a landmark, I guess, or like between landmarks. So like you knew where we were because like we were between PSA and the main stage. So like you couldn't miss us. Like literally, like we were the only one there. So it was easy to tell people where to find us.
Definitely. So, Kristina, I was wondering if we could kind of start with, I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe your personal background, and then we could transition that into like a collector history. But I'll be honest, I really don't know what you did prior to like, let's say career-wise or your background prior to joining Card Ladder. It's funny, we follow these people online. Like, again, I followed you for so long, but I'd love to hear more about like, who is Kristina? How did you get to this point? What do you love doing and that sort of thing?
Sure. Yeah. So professionally, like my background is in academia. So I was in research admin previous to Card Ladder. So Chris Hoge and I met in undergrad, and then like I did like a soft year in tech and figured corporate America really wasn't for me. So I went back to academia and did a lot of research compliance, like bad cop on campus kind of stuff. Like conflicts of interest, research misconduct, responsible conduct of research, things like that. And it was fun, but it was difficult being the bad cop on campus. But yeah, so that's kind of my background. And then Card Ladder started and I was like, yes, please, like get me out of here.
Did that background then in academia and kind of, it sounds like, again, like research integrity, maybe stuff like that. Do you feel like that's really helped you being one of the faces of Card Ladder? Like, has that led you into a very natural fit here?
Oh, for sure. Like, so I think that having those like clear boundaries of like you said, like research integrity, make it easy to be like, to have integrity in the hobby and like have integrity with what I do. And like manage conflicts of interest. Like when we first started Card Ladder, it was just a few of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like Chris, Josh, myself, Nick, and every time we added a card to the ladder, we made sure to say if it was employee owned, like just to be like, hey, like conflict of interest here. We want to make it clear to you. We're disclosing there's a conflict of interest. Like, please take an extra look at this data set because like we might have an unconscious bias that we want to make you aware of so that you can say like, yeah, this sale looks a little fishy, or like I want to like flag this so that I can talk to you about like, was this actually paid for?
Mm-hmm.
And we were more strict with ourselves and our cards and adding them to the ladder because we didn't want that conflict to be there. And then Chris, I don't know like how deep he got into, like how deep everyone knows, but like he's also from like an academic background. And so he and I were very like clear when we started Card Ladder, the intention was having a data set that could be used in an academic research project, having clean data for people. And it's always my favorite part of Card Ladder when I get contacted by a student, whether it's a PhD student or it's an 8th grader trying to like put together like a history report. And they're like, can I use Card Ladder data in this like paper I'm writing or in this thesis? And I'm always like, yes, what do you need? Like, this was literally like what we were thinking when we designed Card Ladder. Like, well, not like everything we were thinking, but one of the reasons like we were thinking like this is what we could offer. So it's always fun to do that. And yeah, so academia definitely prepared me for long hours in front of the computer doing research on cards. And
Eyes are burning. Let's look outside for 20 seconds, look back at the screen, that sort of thing. Well, maybe the year in tech probably did that too. That's what I'm dealing with right now. It's like a good learning experience for all of this. I'm sitting here inputting PSA orders while I'm, then during the day I had just been staring at a screen all day. Your eyes are just so used to it at this point. There's no other way to put it.
It's actually like probably really bad for us.
Oh, horrible, yeah. So we both have glasses. We're sitting here like
yeah, but everyone in society is doing it, so we could all suffer together, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
We'll figure it out. So the academia background, and then again, card ladder creation, that sort of thing. Where did cards tie into this? Let's say prior to this, did you grow up with collecting cards? Again, I would love to hear. I don't know that I know your full story on that side of things.
Yeah, so I did not grow up collecting cards. My older brother collected X-Men cards in the late 90s. Yeah, and baseball cards. And I was more into comic books as a kid. Like I loved to read. So I would like go to the library at least once a week and like check out books and like and then like fly through them and then go back to the library, and like that was like always my thing. So I didn't start collecting cards until we graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
So when we graduated college, we went back to Chris's parents' house, and his mom was like, you need to clean out your room. Like, right? Like, you need to clean out your old room. Before you do the next step of whatever you're going to do, like, clean your room. So, like, in his closet, he found his old basketball cards.
Oh, no way. So his start is kind of, or his back into the hobby is kind of your start, it sounds like already. Okay,
exactly. Wow. So we had just graduated college. Like, I double majored, so I had to write 2 senior theses, like, my final semester, because I'm a procrastinator. And so like I was like in like brain overload, like brain melt. Like I was just like done. Like, so I spent the 2 weeks that he was like reorganizing his cards and getting back into it, just like kind of hanging out at his parents' house, reading, like spending time outside, like just like not doing much and loving it, like right before I entered the real world and found a job and everything. And he one day was like, hey, do you want to go on an adventure and go find some packs to open? Because when I was a kid, it was always so much fun to rip packs. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm literally just sitting here, like, reading a book for fun for the first time in like 5 years. So, like, yes, let's go. And we went to Walmart. And this was back in 2016. So, this was like pre boom. So, we were actually able to find 2015-16 Don Russ blasters on the shelf at Walmart in like June of 2016.
Wow, so
And
funny enough, Jokic was in those packs too, which is funny enough. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so they were like the orange ones with Kevin
Mhm.
Durant on the Thunder, in the Thunder uniform on the like front of it. And so we bought a couple, but they were like all lining the shelf because this was like, again, pre-boom. So like
Mhm.
you could find retail product everywhere. And we bought a few, and I just really enjoyed ripping them. And then so I like, before we even found an LCS, I went on Amazon because I'm a basic girl. And I went on Amazon and I was like, hey, like, let me buy another box of
Mhm.
this. And then I found like a more expensive box. And I was like, why is this one $50 instead of 20? But let me buy it anyway. And that's kind of my first introduction to the tiers of cards, like card boxes, like retail versus hobby boxes. So yeah, so I bought my first hobby box off of Amazon. I do not recommend doing that, but in that box I pulled a Carl Anthony Towns Elite Dominators out of 25 auto, and looked it up in the old Beckett magazine, like went to Barnes and Noble, got a Beckett magazine, looked it up, and found out it was like one of the most expensive cards in the set because he had just been named Rookie of the Year. And I've been chasing that high of like hitting the best card in a product ever since. And that is why I am called a degenerate pack ripper, because I will buy and rip like any box that I can get my hands on.
I've noticed like recently, and again, anyone who follows you on Instagram has seen this too. You and Chris seem to have really been going around seemingly the country and stopping at shops and buying boxes. Is that a recent endeavor, or did that kind of flow naturally from back in 2016 that you've just been doing it consistently since?
Yeah, that's definitely something we've been uh always a fan of doing. So I love hobby shops. They're the lifeblood of the hobby. They're where kids go to spend their allowance or their money, that like they then see in the cases those like big cards that they might not be able to afford, that they always desire, and then come back into the hobby to purchase later in life. Like, right? Like, without that showcase in front of them, like teasing them with a card that they can't get, you don't have that nostalgic feeling of, well, now I'm going to buy that card as an adult. So, plus I studied anthropology, so like I always find it interesting, like the people who own the card shop. I love talking to them, finding out like who their customers are, how often they come in, um, what they buy in different regions, because different regions of the country like sell different things more frequently, and it's something that we've always done, but really kicked off in like 2019, I think. We did a card store tour
Oh,
for a
really?
vacation.
Yeah.
And we were living in Los Angeles at the time. And we actually drove all the way up to Seattle. And we did, I want to say, 14 hobby shops
Wow.
in like 6 days, and it was crazy and amazing. And that was literally how we spent our summer vacation that year, because he was in school, I was working full time, we could only get a week off, like and yeah, so that was literally our vacation that year, was just going around the Pacific Northwest and visiting card stores and meeting people and buying product when possible. And it was probably one of the best trips we've ever taken.
So clearly, cards have become, since that 2016, random occurrence in the closet, has become a main staple in both of your lives, which is amazing. I'd love to turn it now. I have some cards that I stole from your Instagram, the certain number, so I get some scans here. I'd love if you could talk about what led you and Chris to decide very earlier last year, I think, right, to move down to Dallas to follow a certain player or two. Before we talk about these cards, I'd love to hear that story and maybe how the fandom started and where, you both realize, hey, now's the time in our life we can do this. Let's go try it.
Yeah, so we were full in on cards. We had started a podcast in late 2018 called House of Jordans, and we would talk about Jordan cards that we collected and the Jordan market. Chris would talk about the market, and I would talk about the artistry and the designs of the cards, and really dive in. And that's kind of how like people were introduced to me, was through that lane. And when we had to go home for the holidays from LA that Christmas in 2018, we ended up driving from LA to Chicago to visit his family, Chicago to Connecticut to visit my family, and then back to Chicago, and then back to LA. So we literally did a cross country drive, as like poor students on a very tight budget, um, like that Christmas. And we stopped at Walmarts and hobby shops, and whenever possible, we would buy 2018 Prizm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really the start of the Luka chase, was during that hype in his rookie year after Prizm came out. And we even drove like 6 hours out of the way from Connecticut to go to Buffalo to go to Dave and Adam's flagship shop, and picked up a couple hobby boxes. And this was back when hobby boxes were $200 a piece. Like, this is not like $1,000 plus hobby boxes. And we picked up a couple boxes. And then on New Year's Eve, I ripped one of the hobby boxes with Chris and his brother Nick, Stiff Arm Wax. And we actually like hit, like in the pack that I opened, we hit a orange out of 49 Luka rookie card, which was awesome. And but we had never hit a silver, and that was like what we were searching for the whole time. So instead we hit this orange out of 49, and it was like amazing way to cap off the year, and then really like get us interested in watching Luka games, because at that point we'd heard of him, but we hadn't really been like regularly watching basketball. Like I said, like Chris was in school, I was working full time, like we had just moved to Los Angeles, and like it was kind of a crazy time. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and that was what started the Luka hunt and the Luka chase. And then we started watching every single one of his games, really like saw that he was an amazing player, and we went full tilt all in on him as one of our PCs. At that time we were just collecting Jordan, and we called it like that, the House of Jordans, and then we would joke that like we were buying a guest house or like building a guest house, and it was like going to be like a 1-room cottage where we have like this one Luka card, and then one Luka card turned into 3, and then it turned into like, instead of the Luka guest house, it was its own house. But yeah, so that's what really started the Luka fandom. And then a little over a year ago, we got a message from one of our friends who lives in Dallas, that they had season tickets available for the Mavericks for the upcoming season. And we saw that, like, he sent us the prices, and we were just like, you know what? You only live once, and we really enjoy going to basketball games. We really like watching this kid play basketball. Nothing's holding us here. We have no responsibilities except a remote job, so we could be anywhere as long as we have Wi-Fi. And let's just jump in. So we ended up right after National in 2022 packing up and moving down to Dallas with like no furniture and nothing really, like clothes, and that was like it, like clothes and like cards. And we moved right across the street from the American Airlines Center, and we go to every home game for the Mavs. And we're home before people even get to their cars in the garage right across the street from the AAC. And we start working. And it was an awesome year, and we're excited for this season to start and to do it again.
That's amazing. I love the whole history there because, again, I saw you guys were doing that. I'm like, number one, that's crazy, but I wish I could do that. And number two, it's cool with the remote work. Nowadays it's actually feasible to do some of these things. So I noticed your page, a lot of what it seems like I guess you too, right? Both of you have drilled in on here with Luka is some of it is the really neat one of ones from Panini, like these insert sets that, I find myself sometimes, especially now that maybe the Panini era is kind of coming to a close. They did obviously come out with a lot of very good looking inserts. And I think when you can drill it down to a one of one like this, it's just seems like an awesome way to collect. So how did you decide that this was kind of a zone you wanted to like hone in on? And I guess second part of that question, after you again decided to, how did you even find these things? Like, what's the general theme and learning lessons you've had so far?
Yeah, so I think the reason we kind of like zoned in on it was because uh we're 90s collectors at heart, right? Like, so we collect MJ, and when we pivoted to a modern player with all of these different products that were coming out actively, it was kind of an like overwhelming sensation of like, well, what do you collect, right? Like what is it that like you focus on? Because if you're not focused, then like you're kind of going crazy. um or you miss things because you're not actively looking for something. So it kind of passes you by, and then you like look at sold and completed and you're like, oh damn, like I would have loved that card. I'll have to wait and hope that the person who bought it like needs to move it for something else. But so we just started looking and kind of like collecting in a similar style to how we collect Jordan. We went after some of his big cards early on, when they were very inexpensive, comparatively to today, not comparatively to what they were when we purchased them. But so we bought those, and then you can't always buy big cards. You have to like spread the fun and the joy. So we started looking for other things and things that we could buy. So this NBA City, Chris actually like loved this card in the regular hoops set when it came out, and he purchased the hollow version, and like talked about like how he talked about it on House of Jordans, like how much he liked this card, and he kept buying them. Like it was the first time I think we've ever bought multiple copies of a card. And like we were joking, like he was hoarding them. Like he was becoming a hoarder because he was buying multiple copies of the same card. Didn't really make sense, like with our collecting style at the time, what he was doing. Totally out of character. And when the premium product came out for hoops that year, they came out with a one-of-one version of the City card. And it was like, well, you have to upgrade to that. Like if you like this card so much, you want the best version of it. So that's kind of the story behind that. We'll talk about like the Net Marvels, the 2020 version that you have on the screen, was like the second year of one of my like big, like one of my Mount Rushmore cards, and that's why we purchased that card. Huge fan of comic books as a kid, so like when they did the Net Marvels product, it looked so comic book style in the art and design, that I was just like, oh, I need this card. So when the second year came out, I was like, well, I got to continue buying this card, or buying this set. So that's how that happened. And then this Chronicles Essentials Platinum 1 of 1 from 2019. That one kind of fell into my lap at the National. So if I give any advice, it would be to be friendly with people, because as your friendship network grows, your like eyes and ears in the hobby space grows. And as people know what you're looking for and what you collect, people think of you when they come across it. So at the National, at the card letter booth this past summer, one of our friends was going through another one of our friends' box that he had brought with him. And he saw this 2019 1 of 1 of Luka, and Rodman, the great Rodman PC, turned to me and he was like, Kristina, why don't you own this card? And I looked at it and I was just like, I don't know. Why don't I own this card? And G, who I bought it from, the Lucky Show, 05, I was like, why didn't I know you own this card? And he was like, oh, like, I own the 2018. And I was like, yeah, I know you own that one, but I didn't know this one, like, was in your case as well. And we quickly did a deal, and I purchased it right there and then graded it and did an end of show, and I got a PSA 7 on it, which was a little disappointing, but those cards are really hard to grade because they flake. But yeah, so like that's how it happened. And like there's often instances of that where like friends or friends of friends will message you and be like, hey, I pulled this, or like someone told me to message you, I hit this in a break. And that's kind of how the PC continues to grow, is that you're always actively looking. But like I said, as your network grows and people know what you're looking for, they will then reach out to you as well and be like, hey, I saw this, or like, did you see this? And like they send you a link and you're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I'm actively bidding on it, like, stay away. No.
But no, that's a great example. And I think it's like, I guess to put in this phrasing too, it's right. Like, that's why we got to share our brands and people, so people know what you're not know what you're known for, but sort of, right? Like, what are you looking for? Because like, if I ever see a Charles Woodson, I know who I should message. If I see a Ravens card, I know who I should message. You know, it's kind of like, I feel like that's not spoken about a ton, but I feel like it's very, very critical.
Oh, for sure. And I think that part of the thing is that like that was more prominent in the hobby pre 2020. But with like the more people that came in, it kind of like fell, or like didn't become like publicly acknowledged that like connecting and like connections are how you continue to grow your PC. So I think that like pointing that out and like reminding people like we're collecting together, even like when you're competing with each other for a card. Like this happens to me with like my Maxi PC. Like there's actually 7 of us. Like we're all in a group chat. Like there are 7 of us who collect Maxi actively, and we still go up against each other like when we're trying to get a card. But at the end of the day, like we're like jealously happy for the other person that they added an amazing card to their PC, because it's just like the hobby can be very wholesome. Like, right, like we're all rooting for each other to have the best PC possible, even when like you'd rather that card end up in your Zion case than theirs.
Yeah, I always think as long as you know where it went to, it's never lost. So there's two more Luka 101s I wanted to ask you about. What I have shown here, it looks like these are the 2018 threads. I don't know actually what you call these jersey cards. They're not the base, right? I mean, it is the base card. I don't remember what you call these, but they're both the
Yeah,
one of ones. Two of the three one of ones.
yeah. So these are actually the base cards. So Luka had 3 base cards for threads that year. The city jersey, the home jersey, and the away jersey. They're all called something a little different. Like
Oh, it's like icon or like there's. I know
yeah,
I've heard of this, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But basically it's by jersey. So it's
Mhm.
home, away, and city jersey. And I have the white and the city jersey, and I'm actively looking for the blue Mavericks jersey, but haven't found it yet. Yeah, and these are the Black Dazzle one of ones. Um, in 2018, Chris and I opened a lot of threads because they were hanger boxes. You could buy them. They were like retail. You could buy them anywhere. And they were pretty cheap, like on a student budget. Like I said, like as a 1 income household in Los Angeles, like while Chris was in law school and we were racking up debt, um, Threads was Threads was like a nice way to spend some money without it really hurting our grocery bill. So like because we would sometimes tap into the grocery bill to buy cards.
Like it's beans and rice this month, honey. We're doing.
We're gonna do ramen for a few days because I want to buy this card.
Yep. That's.
Um,
Do you have any idea where the other one is? Have you ever seen it? Do
I
you even know if
haven't.
it's cold? That's the scary part.
Actually, I think I have seen it once. Don't I don't remember who has it, but at one point I do know it like was out there in the universe.
Oh,
Hopefully one day it comes around. It'll probably be like Luka wins his MVP
mhm.
trophy, and then it's up on auction at PWCC, and I end up paying more for that than I've paid for like any other card or something.
Yeah. No, that's just fitting. That's how this goes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So another
Hopefully
top.
not, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So another topic too, I want to kind of ask you about. I know you're like a clear example of someone I know who's went after like let's say like one of these Prizm rainbows after 2020 or 2020 or after. And I know that was when they kind of started getting crazy. And you have the maxi one that I have a picture of here, and this is 2020. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, so what led to you pursuing this? Would you do it again? And what do you like and dislike about it?
Yeah. So, like I said, Maxi's not in a lot of product. He was an
Mhm,
undrafted rookie who, like, isn't a star. Or like,
mhm.
he's a role player. He's good on defense. His stats don't match his impact on the court, which is really why I started like when I started following Luka's game and I was watching every Mavs game. When you watch 82 games of a team, like you start looking at the role players a little differently. And Maxi often has at least one block a game, or there's some kind of like defensive play where he makes this huge impact and like the ball gets turned over and like we get like the Mavs get an immediate 3-pointer and it's just like wow, that changed like the motion and uh of the game. Like it changed the like intensity and like shifted the tide into the Mavs favor. So I really started liking this player who came off the bench, always had high energy, made an impact on defense, and wasn't a selfish player, which I think is kind of rare in the NBA at this time. So started liking Maxi Kleba, and started collecting his cards, and like I would talk about him on the crossover or something, or like I would talk about him to people like in our like in a Luka chat or something where I was like, hey, like don't sleep on Maxi Kleba. And And in 2020, it was the first time he was in like the flagship products of Prizm and National Treasures. And so his 3 1-of-1s were actually all pulled within like a 2-week span from Prizm. So we got the Prizm, the black, the classic black, and then the shimmer came out. Like I think it was actually like a month later. The shimmer like popped up on eBay. I bought it, and then that night, like that I paid for it, someone hit the nebula in a break, and people sent me screenshots of it. And so like I'm reaching out to the person who like doesn't even have it in hand yet, like literally just got it in a team break. And I was like, how much do you want for this? Is this for sale? Like, this is what I'm willing to pay, because I bought the other 2 1-of-1s, and that's what I paid. So I'll pay you this price.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, yeah, that's totally fair. Like, if that's what you paid for the other 1-of-1s, this is what it's worth. And I bought it. And he didn't have it in hand yet. So like I had to wait for the breaker to ship it to him, for him to then ship it to me. And it was like the longest like week and a half of my life, because I'm now sitting with like the black and the black shimmer, and I'm like, I need to finish the trifecta. But then once I got the nebula in hand and I showed it off to people, and I was like, look at me, like I got all 3 1-of-1s, like cool, I'm moving on to the next set. People were like, wait, if you have all 3 1-of-1s, you have to put together the rainbow. So I started this horrible, horrible idea that people peer pressured me into. I'm kidding. I've loved it. But like the fact that I'm still 1 card away from completing the 46 parallel rainbow is killing me. Like it's crushing my soul, Austin. But like I still am looking for this fast break neon green out of 5, and I have every other card of this rainbow.
And 46, what's crazy is 46 probably isn't that much compared to if you did this year's or the year prior.
Yeah, so it was, at the time, it was the highest number rainbow. But the next year, in 2021 Prizm, it went from 46 to 58. Mm-hmm. So luckily, Maxi's first year was 2020 instead of 2021 Prizm. But yeah, I'm still holding out hope that this card will one day be found.
Realistically, do you think moving forward, like let's say someone comes back to these sets in 5-10 years, do you think this will be a common, maybe longer than that, do you think this will be a common thing for people to go after these? Like after you've done it now at this point, like do you think the enjoyment will be seen by others as well?
It's really hard. Like I'm not gonna like
sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's hard. It's gut wrenching. Like as you wait for these cards to come up, especially for a role player, it's really difficult to find all of the cards, and then the patience to wait for some of them. Like we're now at the end of 2023. Like this is a 2020 product. I've been actively putting this rainbow together for 3 years.
Gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, like you said.
And it's just like really like the neon green out of 5. Like that's the card I can't find. Like it's to the point where like when I meet people who work at Panini, like at conferences or the National, like I'll start talking to them about this set. And I actually, at the Mint this past year, like one of my friends who worked at Panini introduced me to the brand manager who put together the 2020 set for basketball. And I was talking to this man, and I was like, are you sure it went into product? Like, are you sure? Like, it's never been sold. It's never, like, I've never seen it. Like, I was like, are you sure it wasn't factory damaged or like manufacturer damaged, and like it didn't go in and didn't make the checklists that it didn't go in? Like, where is this card? And the guy was like, like, I could assure you that card is in product, but you're on the wrong continent. And I was like, what? So every few years they switch what product goes to Asia, whether
Oh, okay.
it's choice or fast break for Prizm. And in 2020, fast break went to Asia.
Mm.
So the US market didn't have as many boxes of this. So you didn't see a lot of breakers breaking it. And like this guy told me, I need to go to Asia to find this card, which kind of checks out because the bronze out of 20, which is also a fast break exclusive, was hit by a kid in a card shop in Australia. And his friend who was with him, like, the kid was upset because he was like, oh, I get a out of 20, but it's like some Mavs player that like isn't Luka. And his friend was like, oh no, I know who's gonna buy that card from you. Like, there's this girl in America who's obsessed with this player and is putting together this rainbow. So he and his friend like reached out to me and they were like, I'm the kid who had just hit the card that you're now looking like that is going to be in your PC. And I paid his friend a finder's fee, like, and then I purchased the card from this young man in Australia, and now there's just one card left, and those kids and their friends are all still looking for the out of 5 as well because they're like, oh, I get a finder's fee if I find this. Like, so even if I don't hit it, like I can like make a profit off of it. And like, so there is a finder's fee. Like, I'm willing to pay for it. Like, everyone keep your eyes open. If you're in Asia, like, it's probably in like $1 box at your LCS. Like, but find me this card, please.
You heard it here. Reach out to Kristina when you find it.
Seriously. It's
Uh,
so like it's gut wrenching, like that you can't like that I'm still putting this together. Like, it's just so frustrating.
It'll be satisfying when you're done, I'm sure, and then you'll say never again, never again.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now we have Kristina, your Mount Rushmore here. I want to make sure I respect your time. So we have 4 cards. I'd love if you could describe them to me, and especially for those listening who can't see the visual, what the card is. So
Yeah.
feel free to run with it. It's your Mount Rushmore. What do you want to start with?
Yeah, so this was difficult. I was telling you before, Austin, this was difficult because Hoj was on here before, and like he picked his Mount Rushmore, and like at least 2, probably 3 of his cards that were on Mount Rushmore, I would have put on mine. So I was like, I need to do a different Mount Rushmore though.
Because you guys
So
have joint custody of the cards, right? We'll call
yeah,
it that. Okay, good.
yeah, we are co-parents of
Okay,
every card that we own. Yeah.
good.
Um, so the first card I'll do is the National Treasures 2018 National Treasures RPA of Luka Doncic. So this is a card that like I get like when we shifted over to collecting a modern player, it was kind of it's a new set of rules compared to 90s players of what you go after. And learning those rules, we were quickly like, okay, like you need the RPA. Like, if you're going to be a serious collector of this person, you need their NT RPA. So I was actively looking for it, and I was at a trade night at Bullpen, which is owned by my friends Mitch and Ty. And Mitch actually said to me, like, oh, the person who hit the Luka RPA in the break last week is here tonight. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'll have to meet him. And I didn't know who it was, but I started opening 2018 Prizm Choice at the counter. I bought 2 boxes that night, and I was opening it, and I hit a tiger stripe of someone. I don't even remember who, to be honest, because that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, as I was opening it, and because I hit that card, the person who hit the RPA the week prior saw me opening this and the tiger stripe, and he wanted the tiger stripe. So he like came over and he was like, oh, that's a really cool card. And I started talking to him. And then like Mitch was like, that's him. Like, you're talking to the kid, like the guy who hit the RPA. So then we started talking to him, exchanged contact, talked to him like all week about like what we could do to make this deal happen. And it became a cash and trade deal. And this was the first big Luka card that we purchased in 2019 now, because the season had just ended, I believe. It was May or June. The season had just ended, at least for the Mavs. and so this was the first big Luka that we purchased. And it's a card that whenever we think about consolidating, I'm always like, no, I'm not ready to let that one go. Like, no, like that one's not on the chopping block. So I had to add that one here because it's definitely one of the big cards that like I have a real hard time like being like, oh, I'll let that go. Like I don't think I'll ever let this one go. To Hoj's frustration at times.
That's the difficulties of joint parenting, right?
Yeah. We're not letting this one up for adoption.
Yeah, there you go. So what's the second card you want to touch on here?
So the second card is the 2018 Threads Luka Doncic Floor Generals insert. And this is the Black Dazzle 1/1. So as we had talked about, the two base cards that I own of the Black Dazzle 1/1s from Threads that year. This is an insert from that set. And this was actually purchased by a friend of mine who's a dealer. And he was like, would you like this card? And I was like, what's your price? And he came back with me at a price that I wasn't willing to pay, but I think other people would have been. So I was like, like I don't have the budget right now to pay that. Best of luck. Godspeed. I'm really disappointed, but like, have a nice life, basically. Like, I hate you for even bringing this card into my sphere, and then I can't own it. And my friend brought this to Burbank, and I was sitting at the card letter booth, and he came up to me and he like slammed it on the table, and he was just like, not really, but like, he like slammed his hand down on the table and like put it in front of me, and he was just like, are we gonna do a deal or not? And I just started laughing. It was it's a fun story because of the interactions with my friend in trying to negotiate. I'm a horrible negotiator. Like I negotiate against myself. So like I try not to do it. But so like we settled on a price, purchased it, and then we graded it at Burbank. It was ungraded. Graded it at the Burbank card show. And it came back a PSA 9 end of show, which I was really happy with. So like got to add this one to the PC this past summer, and really happy about it because it continues to add to my Luka 1/1 collection.
I always like the look on this one too, because I think if I remember right, and it looks like from the photo, you can see his tattoos really well in this photo too, right? Like in the photo of the card.
Yeah, you can see them pretty well.
I just always thought that it looks badass. Like, and he's also standing like perfectly for like a point guard, which is obviously the inspiration for the insert here. But I think this one's better looking than the other two if I had to pick.
Yeah. So this is the insert though. So yeah, but I completely agree. I really like the jerseys as well because it showcases the jersey behind the player. But I agree, like he's calling a play, he's like in the middle of dribbling and calling a play as he comes down court. And it's very like it fits very well with the theme of and the name of this set.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. So the next card is the 2019 Donruss Net Marvels Press Proof Gold or Black 1/1. So this is the card I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first year of Net Marvels for basketball, which was in 2019 Donruss. The first year that that insert set was in that product for basketball was 2019. Loved the look of it. Like it looks like a comic book. design, like it looks like a comic book cover, and really enjoyed like the nostalgia of it looks like something that I would have had on my shelf as a kid. And he like as a superhero. So this card came up for auction. Actually, I think it was the best offer. This card came up on eBay, and I immediately was like, yes, I need this card. So we purchased it, and I think it was in December of 2019. And purchased it, then got it graded. It came back a BGS 9.5, which I was really excited about. And like I said, just love the look of this card. And this card, this card isn't moving any time. Like I will go to my grave with this card. I just really enjoy it. So that's why I had to add it to the Mount Rushmore.
It's neat because it fits so well with your history too, like you touched on, which is really interesting. What specifically about this makes it the one of one with the black press proof? How do you tell from looking at it? I'm not overly familiar with this set, so I was just curious.
So this set has a base card that's not press proof. So at the bottom left corner, above the barcode, so like looks like you're gonna like scan to buy this card, like it's a comic book. Above the barcode, it says press proof. On the base card, it doesn't say press proof. So the press proof aren't numbered, but they're short printed. And then above that, in the red, it says one of one. So that's how it's the black one of one.
Perfect. Awesome. And what's the last card here? Is this the one that was tied to, is this like one you gotten recently or you've had this one for a while? I was curious about that.
I've had this one for a little while. I think it was purchased in 2021.
Oh, okay.
So this card is the 2017 Select Black die cut, one of one of Maxi Kleber. So what I really love about this card is, like I said, he wasn't in a lot of flagship product in his rookie year. And he was only in this set within Select. So his only one of one in Select is this die cut.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the story around this one is a little confusing. So basically, this card comes up for sale. I don't know about it. It's happening on Facebook. And someone who knows that I collect Maxi purchases it. And then comes to me and is like, hey, I just got this card. I know that you like want this card because it's probably one of two of Maxi's best cards. The 2017 Select Black die cut, and the other one would be the 2017 Flawless Patches, one of one platinum of Maxi. So he doesn't have an RPA. And I would say those are his two best cards. So when this one came up, I was just like, yes, take my money. Like, I need this card. And while we were trying to figure out the price, the guy was like, oh, where do you live? I'll ship it to you. And I was like, can you ship it overnight? Because I wanted it for crossover to like brag. And this was on like a Wednesday. And the guy was like, no, like I can't ship it overnight. Like I wouldn't, like my job, like I wouldn't be able to make it to FedEx. So I was like, well, where do you live? And he lived outside of Milwaukee. And at the time we were in Illinois, and I was like, what time do you get off work? Because I will come up to you and pick up this card and I'll bring you the cash. So that's how this deal went down. Like Chris and I like jumped in the car, drove like the 2 hours to Milwaukee, and picked this up at the at a grocery store parking lot, like one Friday. Drove home, like hit rush hour. It was miserable. Drove home, and then I got to show it off on Crossover that I had just purchased a really exciting grail of Maxi Kleber.
So it's a total mission accomplished then, it sounds like.
Yeah, it totally was. And again, it
Awesome.
goes to the point of like when people know what you're looking for, what you collect, like they start helping you by picking it up for you or pointing you in the direction. And then you get these cards that like it was happening in a private group on Facebook. Like I didn't know it was happening. But this person luckily knew that I collect Maxi, and he also is a player collector who like was like, oh, like I know who wants this card and where it belongs, so let me help her get it.
Works out perfectly.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, Kristina, if you don't mind, we could wrap up here with like a fast five. It's typically like 1-2 word answers. Hopefully, pretty fun questions. So, first and foremost, you have to move away from Dallas. Where are you moving to follow an NBA team? And it can't be Colorado. Can't be Denver.
It can't be Colorado.
No, where else? And why?
And
I should say, and why is it Milwaukee? That should be the real question. And why is it Milwaukee?
It wouldn't be Milwaukee. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It wouldn't. I've never really spent time in Milwaukee. It would probably be the Bulls or the Celtics.
Okay.
I guess. I'm from the Northeast. I love Boston. And then the Bulls because Chris is from the Chicagoland area. So we'd be close to family with any of those options.
Perfect. Second one here. What is your favorite arena design product?
Simple answer. That would be the PMGs.
Okay.
Like,
Out of Metal Universe.
Yeah. Like there's no, it's just such an iconic set, and like the technology used, like it sounds funny to say that, but like the methods used like for that card is just like the printing mechanics and like how they figured out how to do it, like, and the etching on the cards. Like the cards are beautiful in hand. If you ever have a chance at a show to see the card, definitely do it. Like walk up and be like, can I see this like out of the display? Because as you rotate it, the etchings on that card are just like breathtaking.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And then, so third question here. If you could only collect 1 year of cards, what year would that be? It's hard because 2018 eliminates Maxi, 2017 eliminates Luka. Do you go further back? I'd be curious what you think.
I could only collect 1 year.
And it could be all sports, all players within that year. It's a very hard question, but it's kind of a fun one.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I would have to say 2018. You'll get some Maxis and some random products. You'll get Jokic and you'll get Luka.
Yeah, that's a good point. So then fourth question here. What's your favorite hobby outside of cards? I know cards take up a big part of your life at this point, but what is something that people don't know about you that you enjoy doing?
I love to read, and I love to look at houses that I can't afford on Zillow.
You sound like one half me, one half my wife. I'm the reader. My wife is the building a house way too big for us dreams, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you like to read, by the way?
I like to read sci-fi, and I like to read, it's going to sound so stupid, historical nonfiction.
Oh,
So I love,
that's cool.
Okay. Well, it's like when I say that, people are always like, oh,
Mhm.
that sounds really boring. Like, but if you get like a really good author or historian, they can weave a story like no one's business out of facts. So
Have you read The River of Doubt? I just finished that. I don't know if you've read that. I think it's about, I forget the president. I mean, this has been like 2 months ago. I think Teddy Roosevelt. One of the Roosevelt, for sure. He went down to the Brazil and maneuvered the Brazilian like rivers that have never been mapped and stuff. And he was like 60 something years old. It was crazy, but it's a very good book, but it seems like up your alley.
Yeah, no, for sure. One of my favorite books is The Bully Pulpit.
Okay. What's that about?
It's about Teddy Roosevelt and William Taft.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's the election that he lost, right? That Roosevelt lost.
That one, it actually like goes through the full history of both presidents, and Doris Kearns Goodwin. I'm probably screwing up her name, and I apologize to her. She's an amazing historian, and I really like that. And then the other one that I really love, but it's going to sound so weird, but only get it if you're going to listen to it in audiobook, because the author reads it and she has such a distinct like voice that it makes it so much better. And it's called The Wordy Shipmates. And it's about like the Northeast and like settling the Northeast. And the like, yeah, so
Awesome.
It's interesting. American history. I love American history.
Sounds good. You'll be on my trivia team if I ever start one. How about that?
I'm down. Like, I know a lot of useless information that would come into play for trivia. So I'm
perfect.
Count me in.
The fifth final question. What's your number one tip to other female collectors? What would you put out there for maybe somebody who wants to get involved with the hobby but has not jumped over yet? Maybe has like kind of followed along but hasn't really dove full in.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it, Nike.
Yeah, just do it.
Kristina.
Yeah, just like just don't be shy. Like, you know, it would probably surprise people. I'm actually like a pretty like introverted person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it took me a while before I got online for collecting Instagram. And when I did it, it was mostly because we had started the podcast and people would send like messages to Chris and they'd be like, oh, share this with Kristina. And then like he finally got like so fed up with it. He was just like, can you make your own account, please? Like, and I was just like, but I did. And, just don't look back. Just do it.
Just do it, Nike.
Yeah,
awesome. Thanks so much, Kristina, for hopping on. I really appreciate it. That was a very fun episode. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I really like getting more diverse types of collections on here. And this is not a topic, you know, these modern basketball that I've talked about a ton. So I really enjoyed learning from you. So thanks so much for hopping on.
Oh, for sure. I really appreciate you having me on, and keep doing what you're doing because we love the content.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. If anyone wants to reach out to Kristina too, I'm sure she'd be happy to respond on Instagram if she gets the time. I know she's a busy woman.
No, I'll make the time. It might be a 2-day thing, but I'll eventually respond to you.
Sounds good. See you later. Thanks, Kristina.
Bye. Thanks so much.